Hey, Vuk, welcome to the Value Driven Marketing Podcast. So excited to have you here today.
Hey, Elena, pleasure to be here and really appreciate your invite.
Awesome. I would like to start with a bit of a different question, and that is what was your dream job as a child? What did little Vuk hope to become?
Mm. Yeah, I like Little Wook. Yeah, he had this vision that he's going to be a basketball player. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I was playing football for a bit, but then basketball was something that really clicked. However, I kind of sacrificed that because I wanted to be a bit, lazy in high school, just hang out with friends and just take a pause for the cause. But basketball was my first dream, and then later on, I discovered marketing and said, okay, I'm not gonna treat marketing the way I treat basketball.
Okay, so good lesson there.
Yeah, exactly. But basketball is something, I still play from time to time, and it's like a pure love. There's no money in it, just the ball.
And it's good to have a hobby and have no pressure to get results. So awesome.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Nice. Vuk, I would like to start off with, if you can talk a little bit about what you guys call the growth circle of love, because I find this approach super interesting and I want to know more about it. At which stage of growth did you adopt it? When did you start seeing tangible results from it? So can you detail some more?
Yeah, sure. I think it's like a concept that Guillaume framed like in terms like of giving it a name and a concept. But we always had this funnel of that started as you saw that there's like four stages: inspire, educate, convert, retain. But the whole idea is that early on we were super content driven, obsessed with. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it was like. Differentiation for us in content marketing was being actionable and trying to give as much value as possible. So I think at every stage you kind of have this obsession with that mindset, like let's like have some clear point of differentiation that's going to add value to people and try to do that as much as we can, and it's going to play itself out in the long run. And so the growth circle of love represents that, like you don't create a like a blog article just for the sake of promoting your features, but actually showing people like how can they solve different outreach challenges, how can they win in the long run, and you just position your tool as a key solution, but not in a salesy way, but in a value add way. And the concept is like it divides our funnel. At the inspire stage, it's like more of a top of the funnel where you try to capture awareness with things like personal brand, for instance, or YouTube vlogs. Like we have so many vlogs, it's
Mm-hmm.
humanly impossible to even count anymore. But I think it's the same drive. And then in the educate stage, it's more of exactly that, like a blog article or an ebook, for instance, or whatever the case may be, where we try to be a bit more focused on outreach. People already have some kind of idea what they're looking for. Then in the convert stage, people, create a free trial account, for instance, and then we try to explain how can they use Lemlist in their day to day so they can accomplish their goals and have a positive ROI from outreach. And then later down the road is retaining, the ultimate marketing challenge of user retention and lowering churn. But this growth circle of love takes us back to, okay, we really need to put the user in perspective and try to do everything so we can make their life simpler and ROI positive, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I guess this was an approach you adopted from day one, but maybe you name it or branded it this way later on.
Yeah, we were building it from scratch. I don't think it was perfect, right from the start. But I think the core and how we did it was the same. But then we realized, okay, top of the funnel is really interesting. We saw it first with LinkedIn, but then it made sense. And even now, when you take different social media profiles, whether you're looking for a marketing goal or an HR goal, you see that if you build a personal brand, it's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
Batman to your Bruce Wayne. And I feel like the concept of growth circle of love just became even more clear in recent times, and we coined this the name of our funnel, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. And maybe at what stage did you start seeing results? Because, building content, kind of figuring out what sort of content people like, what sort of content they click with, that does take time and experimentation. So for you guys, how quick was that process of actually starting to seeing, a little bit of traction, the first results?
Yeah, I think like we had some way of like measuring stuff in Google Analytics, but we were never really obsessed with that kind of marketing attribution
Mm-hmm.
because I always like quote him because he's been an inspiration. Like Tim Solo, the CMO of Ahrefs, I think he talks about this a lot and measuring every single thing when it comes to traffic and every single free trial or paid conversion from a blog. It doesn't really gives you the full picture because content can do so many cool things. Like it can help your existing user find like value in the product or have high reply rates and conversion rates from outreach. It can help a prospect who's never going to use Lemlist like learn something cool, and it can help somebody get them excited about, oh, okay, there's this Lemlist tool that I can use for the outreach. But in the beginning for us, I think it was like a mix of things, like long run things like getting organic traffic, which we still have to crack, but we've seen increasing trends in it. But the SEO is an ongoing battle, and it's like a long-term play. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't really expect results in the beginning. But what was really interesting for us, we started developing our community early on, and the newsletter had a good subscription rates month over month, considering that the growth was also really good. So we had some short-term way of distributing our content. So, for instance, if we were extremely focused on creating cold email templates in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had a community that was growing with our users plus people who were in sales but they were not users of ours. So by having really value add content in terms of templates, why did they work, how did they work, showcasing results, which was something that nobody was doing back at the time, and community was like a direct line of communication with people. So positioning our content there was relatively easy, and you could see the matching trends. You can never really say, oh, okay, 120 users came from these posts, but you can see that the growth rate kind of followed the more we invested our time in content, and then later on the branding kicked in and word of mouth, and then now even like organic traffic. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn. Like it's super difficult to measure what kind of MRR are we getting from LinkedIn. But if LinkedIn wasn't in the picture, I don't think Lemlist would have been a tool, and like Lampire wouldn't be the company that it is today, because we know that we reach monthly around 3 million people combined, like with
Wow.
all the profiles that are active on LinkedIn, and we know that this is going to play itself out, and we can see on some branding metrics that then it impacts. So it's not like we're heavily obsessed, for me to not talk forever about this, measuring every single thing, but we know that these are the ultimate or customer acquisition channels that so far have given us a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with the approach of not being super obsessed of wanting to measure everything in detail and attribute every new user to a channel, because I think one, you're
Mm.
not going to have the clear picture, and two, if your focus is solely on metrics, you are going to not be able to deliver that valuable content and interesting content if you're super obsessed with metrics. So definitely, I appreciate that attitude. And one question that I'm very interested in learning is, how do you connect all the effort and all the time and effort you're investing into marketing? How do you connect that with the revenue? It's good not to be too focused on KPIs and obsessed with that, but how do you connect it with revenue? Everything that you guys do, at the end of the day, it's also something to
Yeah,
keep an
yeah,
eye
of
on.
course. Of course, of course. I think it's a healthy balance. In the growth marketing world, you have this talk about T-shaped mentality, like having somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's creative in your growth marketing department, but who also has a little bit of engineering or however people want to label it. So I think it's like a mix of things. Like if you have your OKRs, your key results, or KPIs, or however the hell you're calling them, I think it's a mix of things. So for us, we want to get like our number of weekly free trial signups go up. Then there's the conversion rate from free trial to paid, Then you potentially have sales of different plans within your SaaS, or things like what's the churn rate like, and can we decrease the churn? And then you have your OKRs. A lot of them could be can and are related to the MRR ultimately, because all of these KPIs that I mentioned kind of correlate with the MRR and ARR, etc. But you also have your branding KPIs. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's like a mix of these. And if our product marketing or our user acquisition projects are delivering on key KPIs, we can have and devote a lot of time to things like branding, because Lemlist family community, we're not going to have particular MRR kind of goal or the number of free trial signups, but we know it will contribute, especially in the long run. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
split of these, like things that have impact in the short run, plus the things that they're going to accumulate high dividends in the long run. And a great way to explain this, because sometimes, just as an add-on on this question, is I had like a content creator once in my team who was solely focused on creating content, and he was telling me like, okay, it's hard sometimes to know how content and articles and all this is impacting MRR. Like, I would like kind of to connect it. And so I was really thinking about this, and the way we did it is, okay, you have your MRR goal. And so if you want to have this MRR goal, this means that you have like net new MRR or whatever. Then you have to have this number of new clients. To have this number of new clients, you have to have this number of free trial signups. And to have this number of free trial signups, you have to have this many blog or website visitors or whatever. And so if content marketer is creating an ebook that's generating leads, then for lead nurturing, it's an easy, like it's a way of measuring and seeing at least the trends in how content marketers, some roles that are a bit harder to quantify their
Mm-hmm.
metrics at least. It's an interesting way to break it down and explain it. But I think it's like a mix of, like I said, like short things that can have direct impact on things, and the projects under that umbrella, plus stuff on branding that you can never sacrifice, because LinkedIn content and community, for me, it can be applied to any business, and you won't get far if you're just having quarterly KPIs, and then it's like, hey, community didn't get this MRR, let's not do this anymore. It's a
Mm-hmm.
mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good
Hope it
point.
answers the question.
It does, and it does. And to me, it sounds like there's a lot of trust in the marketing team and a lot of backup from everyone in the team. Like, okay, we're also going to do things that are not going to have an immediate, like, measurable impact tomorrow or in 3 months, but we know this is going to work, and we trust you guys to keep doing the good work. And I think to me that's a key point in marketing. Like, if you don't have your CEO and the rest of the team backing you up, it's going to be very difficult to focus on those things that don't show immediate ROI.
Yeah, that I think that's the key. Like, if they lead by example, they're the last line of defense. And in our case, Guillaume, Vianney, and Francois, they are all invested in personal brands. Especially Guillaume, he was from day one, and Vianney and Francois are also. Vianney has a vlog, which is rare for a CTO to have one, and we can see the impact, like even in terms of hiring and things like that. Like, so if they set an example, then the company can follow, and it's the best culture that you can possibly have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because you talked about short-term, long-term user acquisition and brand, could we detail some more on that? How do you balance the two, user acquisition and brand building? Maybe what's the split between those? Some KPIs you also look at, some North Star metrics.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I think, early stage of startups, when you're growing past your first million, etc., you will have a lot of folks in your team who are more like marketing pocket knives. They can do many different things. You just need the right knife you got to pull out. And then
Mm-hmm.
later, as you grow, you start accumulating more resources that will allow you to have specialists and start having people dedicated to specific channels. And so for us, like, one of the key things that we needed to level up, because we didn't spend as much as time as we should, was bottom of the funnel, for instance, and product marketing. And so,
Mm-hmm.
to give you just an example, product marketing, a lot of cool metrics are in there. So, you have your free trial users, and you have a conversion rate to paid, but you also have user retention. You have which plans do they choose, monthly versus annually. You have things like churn, all critical components, to keep an eye on, critical KPIs to keep an eye on. And so back in Q4 2021, we released the beta, like agency features for lead gen agencies. And we started promoting them on the community. We started promoting them through the newsletter and a little bit of LinkedIn. Nothing crazy. It was still like beta. And we generated a certain number of leads from it, which was really good. We were like, okay, it's solid. Like now we have to execute. But then me and one developer, we sat together and we started developing this homepage, in-app homepage. So whenever you log into your Lemlist account, we wanted to develop this homepage and have some really cool stuff on it. And one of the things that we've added was the invitation, if you're a lead gen agency, to apply to get access to the beta features. And then the number of leads that we generated, consisting both of leads who are not using Lemlist or they just created their free trial account, plus existing users who wanted to switch on these features. So the number of total leads in January, just from that homepage, like blew the 3-month promotion externally. And so it was like, okay, product marketing is massive. If you have like a good user base and you have traction within your app, then a lot of cool things can be with, inside the product. Even product notifications, like if you have some cool update to share, sometimes you have those notifications bells that you go to, but we wanted to do it a bit differently, and we wanted to do something like have like a banner within the product, which is not anything new. There are a couple of SaaS products that do this. And so when we started giving our product a bit more love and these features were promoted a little bit more creatively with some cool visuals and headlines that were oriented towards users, they started appreciating notifications more. They started consuming that content more. They started, I guess, we lowered the churn in Q1 pretty much. And I think this kind of communication benefited from it because, and it just outlined how product marketing has massive potential. And we managed to hit a few numbers with developers developing cool new features, marketing communicating to our users and to prospects as well in a cool way. People who are handling then community, like fostering that knowledge back into the community. And this is the way I think you can test different things and see how they impact. Whether this is some stuff in product marketing, or if you focus in the middle of the funnel and then you have some sort of an ebook and a lead nurturing sequence after that, or whatever it is. Like if it's like a long-term play, like a content marketing, or even top of the funnel stuff. Like if you're using LinkedIn, you can also be measuring different things. Like it's not just the followers. It's also your DMs. It's also your reach. It's also your engagement. And what you want to focus on is the momentum. Like you want to be like, okay, now it's March, end of Q1. Where are we with numbers? And then where we want to be at the end of Q2, at the end of 2022. And then you just stay consistent with it. And that's the way you're going to measure it. So if the reach is increasing and if your content is bringing more people to engage and you're getting much more DMs, whether these are podcast invitations or meeting cool new people and exchanging knowledge, or people asking you to give them a demo of your product, these are all things that can happen, but you just gotta stay consistent. And this is the way I think like everything we do has some sort of metric, or at least like a goal target where we want to be at some point in time, and where did we start. And this, you analyze it with every member of your team and you're like, okay, why did we manage to hit this? Why is this not on target? Let's analyze and let's have some fun, and then learn a thing or two, and try to not repeat the same mistake twice. And this is what's fun about these KPIs. It just has to be, I guess, challenging enough, and you have to match the right people to lead the right project. And ultimately, the same thing we all know.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and it definitely makes sense to first have a user base and a community around, and then you can easier promote things to them, new features, new opportunities. And because we're talking about community, can you tell me a little bit? So you run different, like many different marketing initiatives. Like I'm amazed by how many things you build. I actually follow you on LinkedIn. I also follow Guillaume. So I follow different people from your team, and I'm amazed by how much content you put out there. You have the community, also the vlog, the sales vlog. So how do you maybe prioritize all these different marketing activities, and how do you also get to stay consistent? Because I think that's a key. My experience is that a lot of marketing teams, myself including, it's very difficult to stay consistent, and you are excited to start different things, but then if you don't stay consistent, things will not add up and you will not see results. So how do you guys select what to focus on, and how do you stay consistent?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the ultimate question. Even with my LinkedIn, I have my weeks of inconsistency, so I can totally relate. Like sometimes we just don't have enough time, or we're a bit lazy, or whatever the case. And but ultimately, I think whatever stage company is it in, or whatever resources somebody has available at the moment, I think it's just going back to the basics a bit and be like, okay, let's have a scale from 1 to 3 and assign different priorities. So if we have two people in the marketing team and we want to do different things, we're going to give the 1 mark to those that we absolutely have to do. We're going to give the set, like the mark 2, we're going to give to projects that would be cool to do, but only if we have time. And then the number 3 is going to be, we're not going to do this right now. It's not relevant. And I think it's the same logic that Ahrefs, for example, uses for content marketing. So 1 is an article idea where Ahrefs can be the direct solution to the problem. 2 is where Ahrefs can be mentioned in a way, and 3 is where Ahrefs is not going to be mentioned at all. And so 3 you just eliminate. Like we're not going to do those because early on we couldn't have Guillaume, for example, couldn't do both LinkedIn and YouTube because it was only me and him. Me, on the other hand, like I was writing content on the blog and distributing it and exchanging backlinks, and we also managed the community, so we couldn't do more than that. Like we couldn't have that many silos on the blog. We couldn't write an ebook, but we were prioritizing things that we thought and anticipated they're going to have most impact for us, which was community and the silo about cold email templates and sequences. That's it. And so going forward now with a team of almost 10 people, I think it's okay. We now have different resources available, and so now we can do different things. We can have 1 person dedicated to community, and then this person can do much more than we did. So it's not just managing stuff; it's also fostering user-generated content, generating new members, but also event strategy. So events have been something we've became a bit more obsessed in Q1, and they are showing promising results because not every event has to be like a massive event. Sometimes there's like a beauty in organizing an event with lower amount of people, but having like a really powered Q&A discussions and giving people, breaking different things down and putting things in perspective, and even users helping other users. So we can have a person dedicated to that and executing these strategies, and then coming back and saying, hey, this works great, we need to double down. This doesn't work, we have to figure it out. And it's the same for everybody. And it's still the same logic, like, okay, what's the impact? Like, what's the ROI? Like, and sometimes ROI doesn't necessarily have to be, yeah, we're going to have like a 10% increase in the conversion rate or sign up rate. Sometimes the increase is, hey, imagine if we do this, like, how cool would this be for the brand? Like, it's never been done before. Even something that's you can't quantify, but there's going to leave like an impact on branding or on word of mouth or things like that. We're still going to do it. And I think it's just the same old good prioritization and learning to say no to some things. Sometimes it's hard, especially for the people who don't want to be rude or unkind, but you have to tell it. And you have to tell it even to your boss, like, hey, we don't have the capacity to do it sometimes. But do we want to do it? Great, let's hire somebody. Or we're going to pause this. And you don't want to have your people in the moment of you crossed your 10 million ARR and you want to have people who can scale channels. So you don't want to have somebody who's focused on PR or on a community to be the one also who's creating massive amounts of content, because then this person really can't be really good at something. It just meh at many different things. And so prioritization and then matching people with the right projects is the key thing, I think, at every stage, especially when you come to this one. Not trying to do too many things, but also not limiting yourself. Balancing. I guess balance is the most used word in my vocabulary, but I think at least that's my way.
Yeah, I definitely feel that balance can go a long way. And it sounds to me that you need to be super brave to say no and to set expectations, like to go to your boss and say, look, if you want to do this, it's not realistic. Or if you would still want to do it, we need more people. So I think that takes courage and it takes a lot of clarity as well to know what to say yes to in the end.
Yeah, yeah, open lines of communication and just being argumentative, not being not making things personal, not being like just saying no for the sake of no. I think you have to be open for it, but together you have to assess, is this more important than other thing? If we had to pick, maybe we can do everything. If yes, great, but that's rarely the situation. You have to organize resources and then plan ahead, and I think this is another really good challenge for all of us. It's like, how do we stay a few steps ahead and anticipate different things.
And because you already hinted to challenges, I would like to go into two, three, a few key challenges that you've come across working with a bootstrapped startup such as Lemlist. So you guys are totally bootstrapped. You grew from 0 to 10 million in 4 months, in 4 years. I'm sorry, which is amazing. So can you talk a bit about some of the most important challenges you guys came across and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, good question. I think I mentioned this already, but for me, the toughest challenge at Lemlist by far for me personally was this time last year when the team got even more bigger, and I realized that I'm not really acting as a proper leader. Like, I'm more operational. I'm more like your colleague rather than somebody who like is like a mentor, a proper leader, offers support and all that. And I looked myself in the mirror and I was like, it's not gonna work this way. Like, then you're not for this position. You're more like a growth manager, which is still fine if you want to go this direction. And I felt there was a lot of, not tension, but more like people just feeling a bit lost sometimes and not being as productive. And for me, it felt like it's totally, utterly my fault. So we're going to change that. And it took me a while to figure out things like, how do you become less operational? How do you accomplish goals through others without micromanaging them? How do you give different people a good enough room to make a mistake or two? And then when they come and say, hey, I failed, you say, great, now go fail again. But don't make the same mistake twice. You coach them and you show them some things if they didn't just see it. And then, like, hoping that they will know that I will support them through both good and bad times without just saying that, right? By actually really doing it and then helping them, like I said, elevate and not repeat the same mistake twice, which is the only real problem. Making mistakes, like I made 2 times more mistakes than good things at Lemlist in any case, and every normal being, not normal human being, does that. So I think this was the ultimate challenge, one of the toughest things, I guess, um, on maybe like a broad level. But on a tactical level, I think product marketing is in 2021, early 2021. I also realized that okay, like churn is okay, user retention is okay, but it can be better. And we're giving love to top of the funnel and middle of the funnel, but bottom of the funnel is kind of not receiving the same thing, kind of like the room you never go in your house. So, okay, we don't have people dedicated to it. We're going to change that. And then you start to realize that there are different verticals within the product. How do you communicate that? How do you sync different departments? Because when it's the product, there's the dev side, there's the sales side, there's the support side. How do you keep that communication synced so that everybody knows everything? Whatever soft launch we have going on, whatever new feature, like, how do you communicate these things? How does a user not get lost with too many content? Like, can you create syndication pages so they're, kind of like the Webflow, what they do with the university, which I think is phenomenal. So product marketing is a real challenge, and everything you do is, constantly, then it changes, it's dynamic, user responds to it, and then you have a certain goal, like, hey, I want to lower churn, or I want to increase the sales of my plan A. And then you realize it's not as easy. You have to put some things in place, not just the cool copy, but the way you deliver it, the way you talk about it, and how different users see it. And then there's a lot of workflows in place that needs to happen. So it's an ongoing challenge, I guess. And but I kind of really fell in love with product marketing, and I feel like product marketing in general, I feel like whoever decides to write a really good book, vlog, I don't know, community on it, there's a bit of lack of that right now, in my opinion. Like if I had to buy a product marketing course that's really good, it's really tough to find one that's built by somebody with a good track record. And there's too many critical components of a business there. Like for SaaS, we have to have users using it all the time. So, you know, lowering churn and things like that. So I feel like these are the challenges that, okay, we managed to hit our churn target and user retention target in Q1, but how do we do a better job in Q2? And coming up with the ideas and then executing the ideas, it's not always the easiest of job, but it's really challenging and exciting.
And as I'm hearing, you're focusing more and more on product marketing as you move forward. Would you say that has brought changes to the structure of the team, to your focus on other areas of marketing?
I think it's just bringing a bit more people who are going to take different things. Like, you know, Lemlist right now is looking for a title. I mean, like, there's a job ad called product copywriter, but there's also a job ad for partnerships manager, somebody who will take care of Lemlist Marketplace, which I feel like it also deserves a dedicated person focused on it. But also some cool programs, partner programs with different users. Like how do you create communities with certain verticals and all that? I think it's like a really, really cool thing to do, but you have to have somebody focused on it. Like me and another person right now in product marketing just don't have the bandwidth to do it. I need to be a bit less operational in product marketing, and I'm really trying to bring somebody. But I'm not gonna lie, it's not been the easiest of job roles to find right now because more people are interested at I want to do social, I want to do content, I want to do, and it's like a more popular job in any case.
And I guess it's one that requires a few different skills, and it's kind of difficult to find a person that
Exactly,
matches,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
all
Finding
of those.
somebody who's creative with a track record is a challenge. There's creative and there are track records, but both together, not the easiest of things. But I guess there's the right person at the end of the tunnel, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, he or she will come. Vuk, because you alluded to the future a little bit, I wanted to ask, how do you see growth at Lemlist, and what levers are you pulling to get there? What marketing levers?
Yeah, so I think at the end of the 2022, we would like to cross 20 million with the Lamless project. It's a challenging goal for sure, and I feel like Q1 was really, really good. I mean, we overpassed our target a little bit, and the growth rate has been dope. And I feel right now is just the main challenge is scaling things. So we say that we have reaching 3 million people on LinkedIn. Okay, can we do the same on Twitter? Twitter is an interesting platform. What about TikTok? The algorithm is really interesting. Like I have like the weakest profile on TikTok because I just scrolled through stuff. But I shared once a meme that got thousand and something views, which is nothing. But with 3 followers, how did that happen? And then Guillaume shared the other day like a video about inviting people to apply for the open job ads at the job opportunities at our company, and the inbox of HR people blew up. And Guillaume also doesn't have like as strong of a profile like he does on LinkedIn. So how do we scale these things? Then you have things like content marketing. Great. There's a lot of topics that we didn't attack. Some have massive SEO opportunity. The other have, okay, multi-channel. How do we have even more multi-channel content? Because a lot more people are understanding how cool it is and how impactful it can be to do outreach via multiple channels. So a bit of cold email, a bit of LinkedIn, a bit of cold calling, like creating a good content and then making sure that content ends up where it's supposed to end up. Events in the community, and bottom of the funnel, not to repeat the product marketing stuff, but I think it's just a question of how do we scale? Like how do we make an even bigger impact and how do we have even stronger LinkedIn profiles? How do more people get to the level where they want to be? And I think just having the right people lead these initiatives is how we're going to get to that 20 million.
Sounds good. Wishing you
Thank
guys
you.
best of luck. I'm sure you'll get there. Vuk, I do have one final question, and that is, what would be your top recommendation or top recommendations for other marketers working with startups, bootstrap startups? How should they approach their marketing strategy to maximize and focus their resources?
Yeah, good question. I think it goes back to that prioritization, not doing too little, but also not doing a lot, and just forecasting things. Okay, we want to be at a million ARR at the end of the year, and then breaking down how will this happen? Like, where do we want to focus? And then going through this road, I think it's going to be bumpy. It's never an ideal line, and I know it's another cliche I'm gonna say, but I feel sometimes people take these mistakes too emotionally. Everything that needs to happen is like, if we have a 10% drop in our MRR or whatever, I'm gonna go to Guillaume, and if I'm proactive about that, and if I tell him, hey, we have a 10% drop, I'm aware of it. Here's what I think happened. This is my plan to respond to that. Or I tried everything. I can't figure it out. Can you help? Both are, in my opinion, proactive ways of doing it, and they build trust with your boss, your leadership, or whatever. And this is the way you get all the things you need and support from the top, so you can go and execute that. You just have to be owner, feeling like you're the one who's accountable about certain things. And then on the flip side, if you have a team, also be in position to be what you expect from your leader, be that kind of a leader to your team, so that they can also go through different things, because it fluctuates. Like, sometimes you're on point, and I never had a quarter where we hit all the goals. There's always something that's missed, and that's good, because there's something, a lesson to be learned, and then executed. So I feel, prioritize different things. I think try to figure out how can you use things like content, community, and personal brand on the top and the middle of the funnel, and go step by step. Maybe conquer YouTube, then go to the podcast. Don't do the YouTube and podcast at the same time if you're just two people in the team. And then if you're doing one channel, go the extra mile. So don't do YouTube just for the sake of recording and posting videos. Take care of the organic. How do you get more non-branded searches to your channel? How do you get the subscription rate? What about the video retention? Really add extra mile to everything that you do, so that you can nail it. And that if you give this type of dedication and love to your work, things will work itself out sooner or later. And then you can, with more resources comes more opportunity and more people. So I would just say, stick with the plan.
Yeah, and I love the idea of being accountable and just asking for the resources you need rather than making it personal, like I've failed or things are not going well, so it must be me or the team. It's just a situation and you have to figure out how to solve it rather than add the emotional layer,
You just don't
which
give up.
doesn't help.
I guess, like, if you really want to have I don't know, if you really want to have a coffee with another head of growth, if the LinkedIn DM didn't work, maybe I do something else. And you just make a decision in your brain. This is happening. It's either gonna happen or I'm gonna die. Third option doesn't exist. Of course, you don't go all crazy and all that. But the point is just wanting something to happen, and have this healthy obsession about delivering on it.
Figuring out how to do it rather than it's going to work or not, but
Yeah,
rather how do
exactly.
I make it work. Awesome. Awesome, Vuk. So those were all of my questions. I think they kind of flowed into each other, and I definitely learned something new. So I'm sure whoever is going to listen also will get some new ideas. Cool. Thank you so much.
Hopefully, anybody who's been listening is extracted some value from it. At least like 1 point of value from everything I said. But I think it was a fun episode.